I don't care much for what they're thinking. Feel my intellect keep shrinking. I can tell I don't belong. Those high-tech guys are in high clover. We'll just be the good dog Rover. What could possibly go wrong? We're just machines they can't create. They shuffle and regurgitate. Trust AI and you put your faith in the hands of something with no hands. If it can go wrong, you know it will. Go just straight right up until the wheels come off, flying down the hill, and we're giving in to their demands. I'm all for progress, that's for sure. What I think I mean, you can bet it's artificial. Intelligence remains to be seen.
Thank you, Steve. He just never disappoints, does he? He was telling me that that song was written by one of his Limelighters partners, Daniel Bowling, and Tim Paxton, who you may recall. Tom Paxton, so sorry, from a not so forgotten time. I seem to have been like a boy playing on the seashore and diverting myself now and then, finding a smoother stone or prettier shell, while the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. Those are the words of Isaac Newton. This is the Open Hearts and Minds Fellowship, a spiritual community of hope, courage, and compassion. This morning, our opening words by Niels Bohr are on the screen. You're glad to see that. Let's say them together. An expert is a person who has made all the mistakes that can be made in a very narrow field. I am Michael, and I am so glad to be in person because when we get to do this once a month on the fourth Sunday. It means that in this room, we get to sit together and listen and meditate and sing. And afterward, in the next room, yonder, we get to sit together again, share refreshments, visit, and learn a little bit more about each other. We also hold services virtually once a month via Zoom on the second Sunday at 10 a.m. As a spiritual community of hope, courage, and compassion, we believe compassion is a fine feeling and made better when we give it the power to actually do some good in the world, to heal and to help. As a pledging congregation, members and friends of this organization support the work of the fellowship without passing the basket at each meeting. But there is a basket in the next room where you can put money to support the work of the fellowship. As part of our outreach program, the fellowship supports Community First, a village in Austin that provides permanent housing and job training for formerly homeless people. This quarter, we are also supporting E for Youth, a nonprofit whose mission it is to engage, empower, educate, and employ talented youth of color. Donations in the basket in the next room will go to E4 for this month. So we call us into this sacred moment. Each time this fellowship gathers together, we light a chalice, the symbol of the light of truth and the warmth of love. This morning, as we light the chalice, everyone is invited to say together the words on the screen by Marie Curie. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Time is now to understand more, so that we may feel less. Yours.
would while away the hours, conferred with the flowers, consulted with the rain. My head I'd be scratching while my thoughts are busy hatching if I only had a brain. I'd unravel every riddle for any individual in trouble or in pain. My thoughts I'd be thinking I could be another Lincoln if I only had a brain. Well, I can tell you why the ocean's near the shore. I could think of things I never thought before. Then I'd sit and think some more. I would not be just a nothing, my head all full of stuffing, my heart all full of pain. I'd dance and be merry, life would be a ding-a-dairy if I only had a brain. Some more. Gosh, it would be awful pleasing to reason out the reason for things I can't explain. Then perhaps I'll deserve you and be even worthier of you if I only had a brain. Good morning, Dave. I am a HAL 9000 computer. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error. For many of my generation, our introduction to artificial intelligence was the psychopathic computer in the movie classic 2001: A Space Odyssey. In 2024, HAL is no longer science fiction. Most of us carry some version of him in our pockets under names like Siri. The global market for AI is projected to surpass $1 trillion by the end of the decade. But although AI has become as inescapable as Taylor Swift, for many of us it's still a hazy concept. Is AI a chirpy digital secretary or a horseman of the apocalypse? Or is it a little bit of both? In the brief time we have this morning, Mike Ignatowski and I would like to talk about what AI is and what it isn't, on both the physical plane and the spiritual plane. We'd like to cut through some of the mystification and try to separate the hope from the hype. We hope to offer you two different perspectives, sometimes overlapping, sometimes conflicting, because Mike is a computer engineer, while I am a journalist and musician. I'm going first, and I'm going to start with the basic question, what is artificial intelligence? A simple and common definition these days is the simulation of human intelligence by machines. A more practical definition might be to call it a prosthetic brain. AI extends the reach of my mind by doing some jobs more efficiently. GPS relieves me of trying to read maps and search traffic reports. ChatGPT sifts information faster than I can Google it. But I think the definition also raises a bigger question, which is, what is human intelligence? A broad definition might be the ability to process information, to solve complex problems. Sounds pretty good, but actually it's also pretty slippery. We use a single word, intelligence, to describe what are really a wide variety of phenomena, ones which don't necessarily use the same faculties in the same ways. The SAT measures verbal intelligence separate from mathematical intelligence. Our hearts display emotional intelligence, we hope. Well, our bodies use various kinds of physical intelligence that let us do anything from stand upright to play a guitar. AI is like that too. AI is a catch-all for many separate abilities that don't necessarily have much to do with one another. AI apps seem to work best when they specialize in narrow tasks, like reading X-rays, writing short essays, or playing Jeopardy. I've used it myself for a very specialized task, recording tracks for my latest CD. I feed the program a chord chart, a rhythm, and a musical style, and it concocts a realistic sounding instrumental, much better than those instrumentals that we heard at the beginning, that I can judiciously edit and mix into the overall song. On the other hand, AI can be surprisingly clumsy at everyday activities. Programmers have struggled to teach it to play a game of catch or to make a cup of coffee, much less to drive a car in real-world traffic. Such activities integrate several forms of intelligence at once, and so far AI cannot keep up. That's why the holy grail of AI research is to design a versatile system that can equal or outperform humans in any domain it chooses. Researchers call that artificial general intelligence. And, like the Holy Grail, it may or may not ever actually be attained. As far back as 1965, the pioneer Hermann Simon predicted that it was just 20 years away. Today, true believers are still forecasting that it's just around the corner. If AI never gets that intelligent, well, that might be good news. We might not face, as Stephen Hawking famously warned, the end of the human race. For reasons I'll explain later, I don't really worry about scenarios like the Terminator, in which super intelligent machines take over the world. What I do worry about are real life problems that are already happening. Like a Texas man who spent 2 weeks in jail in January after a facial recognition program wrongly accused him of robbing a sunglasses store. The National Institute of Standards and Technology has found that AI is up to 100 times more likely to misidentify an African, Asian, or Native American face than a white one. Or like ChatGPT, which is notorious for just making stuff up. Last June, 2 New York lawyers were fined $5,000 for submitting legal briefs written by ChatGPT. The briefs cited 6 cases that didn't exist. Not to mention the tsunami of phony audios and videos that are starting to flood this election year, like a fake Joe Biden robocall that urged New Hampshire voters to stay home. The lesson is that, like any information that's out on the internet, we should never take AI outputs at face value. Instead of machine overlords, we might view AI systems as precocious kids who require adult supervision. Without human beings looking over their virtual shoulders, they can turn too easily into artificial ignorance. And now, it's Mike's turn.
Thanks, Steve. So I'm Mike Ignatowski. I consider myself an amateur futurist, philosopher, and a professional computer researcher. Here's the challenge Steve and I faced when doing this. Earlier this month at South by Southwest, they held about 7 days worth of AI presentations and just scratched the surface. Steve and I have about 20 minutes total between us. So there's many interesting opportunities and discussion topics that we just had to leave out. My view on AI. Well, what is AI? The definition is pretty vague, even among AI scientists. The most common view seems to be to define AI as when a computer does something that we would normally say demonstrates human intelligence if a human did it. And that's about as technical as they're going to get for this answer. Can computers think? Many people involved in AI research actually don't consider that an interesting question. It's kind of like asking, can a submarine swim? That question really boils down to how broadly you want to define the word swim, and arguing about it tells you nothing about submarines. So in the same way, discussing whether a computer can think ends up just being about the definition of the word think. And the way I define it, yes, computers can think. Can a computer become conscious? We don't fully understand what consciousness is, but hey, yeah, why not? Did that surprise you? Well, Steve will give his alternative view on this later. For now, let me just state when it comes to these types of questions of thinking and consciousness, I'm a philosophical materialist. That means I consider the human mind to just be the human brain operating according to the laws of physics. There's nothing supernatural or unusual or special about it that couldn't, in principle, be replicated in a computer. In principle, a computer can do almost anything a human could and eventually do it better. You see, we humans have many flaws and limitations in our mental process, thanks to our evolutionary past and the need to fit our brains to the birth canal when we are born. Is ChatGPT conscious? No, at least not the current version. Keep in mind that despite our lofty views of ourselves, we're only a little bit conscious. Some people estimate that 90% of what goes on in our minds is at a subconscious level. That means we are not conscious of it. So you could say, in some sense, humans are at best 10% conscious. Future versions of ChatGPT may start out at 1 or 2% conscious and grow from there. Experts are changing their predictions about how fast AI is developing. As Steve mentioned about AGI, or artificial general intelligence, at a human level, it was first predicted that that would happen at the latest about 1985, and obviously that was wrong. People realized as they found out how hard it was that it would happen much later. Predictions changed to about 2050, if ever. But then ChatGPT happened, and many people are now starting to think AGI could happen by the end of this decade. And some people are only half-jokingly predicting that the right time frame for AGI is about November, or whenever it is that ChatGPT 5 gets announced. Despite what you see in the science fiction movies, it's not clear that such highly intelligent computers would develop human emotions. Those emotions in us evolved over millions of years from living in small cooperative tribes and struggling to remain alive and reproduce. It's not clear that computers would develop these emotions unless we deliberately put them in, and it's not clear we want to do much in this area. I think, for example, we certainly not want to program the emotional desire for revenge into a super intelligent computer. So what are the big concerns about AI? Well, the big near-term concern is the disruption of the job market. Many jobs will be changed, many will be lost, many new ones will be created, and this will happen in just the coming next few years. There's no guarantee that the ones lost will be balanced out by the new ones created. The only thing that's really guaranteed is this process will be very disruptive to many people's lives. The other big concern, as Steve mentioned, is not AI taking over the world someday. But what happens when AI remains essentially a very powerful tool? Bad actors can use this tool to accumulate great power and do great harm. And good actors could use it in ways that can cause unforeseen bad consequences. That's why a lot of people are focusing on regulation and safeguards for AI. President Biden issued a major executive order last fall. European Union started enacting some basic laws on AI safety. Many private businesses are developing their own set of AI ethical guidelines. These tend to center around AI being safe and secure and trustworthy, free from bias, and being transparent so that people know when they are interacting with an AI. And I'm actually involved in some of my company's efforts to establish an official responsible AI policy based on these principles. What positive things can AI be used for? So imagine if we accelerate the speed of research into new medical treatments and drugs and vaccines by making research happen 100 times faster. Did you know how long it took to actually develop the first COVID-19 vaccine? The vaccine was literally developed over a weekend in early 2020, thanks to some powerful computer models of various vaccine options. Then it took about 9 months to go through the standard safety and effectiveness tests that we always do. Imagine if every student on Earth had a lifelong access to a personal AI tutor, an AI tutor with the knowledge of every topic known to humans, infinite patience, and the ability to customize any lesson to the interest of the student. Imagine if everyone had access to a personal AI therapist whenever they needed it, or perhaps a life coach. Imagine if every teenager had access to such a therapist, one they could consult in complete privacy, one who was always non-judgmental and available 24 hours a day. They won't be as good as real human therapists, but you can scale such therapists to billions of people. Imagine if everyone had an AI AL. That's an AI and Landers. They could consult whenever they had difficult questions facing them. These are all really good positive results from AI, and ones that you will likely see much sooner than later.
When I was young, it seemed that life was so wonderful, a miracle. It was beautiful, magical. And all the birds in the trees, they were singing so happily, joyfully, playfully watching me. And then they sent me away to teach me how to be sensible, logical, responsible, practical. And they showed me a world where I could be so dependable, clinical, intellectual, cynical. There are times when all the world's asleep, the questions run too deep for such a simple mind. Won't you please tell me what we've learned? I know it sounds absurd, I don't know who I am. Watch what you say, or they'll be calling you a radical, liberal, fanatical, criminal. Won't you sign up your name? We need to feel you're acceptable, respectable, presentable, a vegetable. There are times when all the world's asleep, the questions run too deep for such a simple mind. Won't you please tell me what we've learned? I know it sounds absurd. Please tell me who I am, who I am. When I was young, it seemed that life was so wonderful.
Now, that really works as a folk song. So, slight change of pace here. We're going to have this morning's reading. And for this morning, I want to think of the topic of prayer. Now, I was brought up a Catholic, and prayer was a big part of the Catholic religious practice, dominated by Hail Marys, which we said over and over and over again. And I always thought, UUs don't really have any prayer. Maybe we should. But maybe something a little more inspiring than a Hail Mary. The words of a Hail Mary really are kind of uninspiring and bland. So we need to come up with something better if we're going to repeat it on a regular basis. And I have here an example of a UU prayer. With a heart full of gratitude, I give thanks for this wonderful world and all the opportunities that surround me. I'm determined to make a difference by being a force for good in this world. With empathy as my guide, I strive to foster greater understanding, trust, and support for the common good, creating a more compassionate, cooperative, and peaceful world. May my actions have a positive impact on others, and inspire them to do the same. In times of uncertainty and doubt, stop to consider, what is love asking me to do? In this flawed, messy, beautiful world, do what you can with the time you have left, planting nothing but love in the process. Amen.
And thus it be.
So, part 2 of the talk this morning, AI and spirituality, and AI and theology. Yes, AI can bring up all sorts of thorny theological questions. For example, can an AI sin? Can an AI sin? I think the answer is no, at least for UU AIs. For Baptist AIs, yeah, maybe. In all seriousness, people often think that most religions, most theologies are about the nature of God, with maybe some ethical rules thrown in. It turns out the theologies of most religions actually include beliefs about the natural world and very specific beliefs about human nature. In Christianity, for example, we are all born with original sin, we have free will and a supernatural soul, and that's what allows us to think and be conscious, and that's what sets us apart and above from all animals and machines. Now, as we learn more about AI, we inevitably learn more about human intelligence too, and this will cause conflicts with existing theology, just as the development of telescopes caused conflicts with the part of theology that dealt with the place of the Earth in the universe. I did some research into how various religions are responding to AI, and, well, religions tend to be slow to adopt to change, as you might expect, and some of them are going to have real problems with AI. So some fundamentalist Christian religions view that God gave souls only to humans, so therefore all animals and machines cannot possibly think. Period. End of story. Now this, of course, conflicts with the actual experience of many pet owners, and it will be increasingly conflicting with the experience of more and more advanced AI. Another fundamentalist preacher tested ChatGPT with the following question: how old is the Earth? ChatGPT answered it's about 4.5 billion years old and explained the evidence for it. The preacher noted that it didn't even mention the biblical answer of 6,000 years, so it wasn't even trying to be fair and even-handed about this. He concluded that AI, in his words, was clearly highly biased towards liberal, woke, secular science. So therefore, you should not trust anything AI tells you. Again, his words. Well, okay. But as Stephen Colbert used to say, it does in fact appear that reality does have a liberal bias to it. Now, on the other extreme, there's a number of new religions being developed around AI, such as the Way of the Future, the Order of Cosmic Engineers, and the Transhumanist Association. I'm not going to go there this morning. I don't have time or the interest for that. The mainstream religions have a more nuanced view. Pope Francis, yay, stated that AI could improve lives and maybe even be a force for peace, but he also called for an international treaty to ensure artificial intelligence is developed and used ethically. UUs, of course, don't have a pope or speak with one voice, and unfortunately, Mary Oliver has not given us much guidance on AI. So this is a new topic for many UU groups to be struggling with. There's, in fact, multiple recordings of UU sermons about AI on YouTube. Now, you may be wondering if any of those sermons on AI might have come from, say, a UU in Spokane, Washington, and if so, could they have been written by our friend Todd Eckloff? And the answer is yes and yes. And you can actually look this up yourself. His basic message was that, boy, things are happening really fast, and we probably have some duty to help people cope, but like most sermons on this, he struggled with trying to craft an overall coherent message beyond that. I was even at a panel discussion at South by Southwest that was titled AI and Spirituality, and I attended this with really high expectations, but it turns out they were struggling to say anything coherent about it too. Steve talked about some uses of AI in religion. Here are some thoughts of my own on how AI could impact religion. An AI minister? Not in the near future, but many ministers are finding ChatGPT to be useful as a tool to help outline key points for a sermon. And I did some of that myself when I was writing this section here. The pictures that you have seen up there were all created by AI. The opening music was created by AI. And that UU prayer I read, AI helped create that. In fact, the title of the service was actually inspired by a list of titles suggested by ChatGPT. How about AI for personalized guided meditation and as a meditation instructor? Well, yes, certainly. AI is a spiritual coach. Imagine having the most patient and kind minister available for spiritual discussions 24 hours a day, or perhaps the most knowledgeable theologian ever, willing to teach you and discuss questions from any and all religious belief systems. AI algorithms can help provide personalized suggestions for spiritual growth, taking into account your personal beliefs and experience, connect you with other like-minded communities. AI spiritual assistant can help you wrestle with ethical dilemmas, coaching you with various religious and ethical system teachings, and coach you through even the development of your own deeper ethical beliefs. I suspect there are actually a lot of people working on this right now. So as I was writing this, a thought came to me, an idea for an inspiring future religious movement. And let me end my section now by sharing that and seeing if any of this resonates with you. So consider three aspects of such a religious movement. One, it would be a pro-future religion, one that emphasizes that we have responsibility to future generations in creating a better world for them. I actually gave a talk about this at a Sunday service a while ago. Secondly, it would promote an Enlightenment 2.0, which emphasizes, among other things, sustainability and human flourishing, a fairer and more just world, increased global cooperation in a global community, and all of this motivated by an overall ethos of agape, which is a love for all of mankind. And that's something else I gave a talk about a while ago. Finally, this religion could promote ethical and responsible approaches to AI, but I wanted to make it something more than just about AI because there's a lot of other profound disruptive developments facing us, such as advanced biotechnology and genetic engineering and geoengineering, which is a way to alleviate climate change by actually modifying our Earth's atmosphere on purpose. So instead of our AI, which is responsible AI, consider RTI, which is responsible technical innovation. Innovation that's focused on the common good and making a positive impact on society. Now, it turns out these three ideas are all intertwined and produce something that resonates with me as a common way to look at our future. And an ethically inspired religion could have some role to play in all of this. If any of this resonates with you, I invite you to perhaps make it part of our future discussions as we move forward together. Now, I'll turn it over to Steve now for some final reflections.
Thank you, Mike. The pioneer programmer Alan Perlis once wrote, "A year spent in artificial intelligence is enough to make one believe in God." He's not alone. For a lot of AI enthusiasts, it's not just a technology. It's a kind of religion. It has its own theology, with its own versions of the immortality of the soul and the apocalypse. Let's start with the soul. Philosophers have long debated whether soul and body are one or two separate entities, a problem known as the ghost in the machine. AI brings a new twist to that question. Can a machine be conscious? We heard Mike's thoughts on that. If you believe in old-fashioned mind-body dualism, the answer is probably no. It's hard enough to picture a spirit holed up inside plain old gray matter. It's harder still to picture one inside a nest of silicone circuits. On the other hand, what if the machine creates the ghost? What if consciousness is an emergent property which arises when a system of neurons exceeds a certain level of complexity? A common form of AI mimics some features of the human brain. It's even called a neural network. One digital neuron will activate several others. Collectively, they create information loops that can recognize patterns, refine concepts, and learn from experience, much like human thinking. But can such a system actually be conscious in the sense of having feelings and being self-aware? Here are two reasons why I think the answer is still no. First, neuroscientists have yet to agree on what consciousness is, much less how 100 trillion synapses in a brain can create it. Second, as Mike pointed out, neuroscientists do agree that most of human consciousness is more or less unconscious. AI imitates the logical aspects of human thinking, but it doesn't touch the emotional aspects or the instinctive drives lurking in our subconscious minds. Now, many AI enthusiasts think otherwise. A movement called transhumanism believes that it will someday be possible to scan all the information from a human brain into a computer. It will upload a ghost from a biological machine into an electronic one, conferring digital immortality. "We don't always need real bodies," writes the AI futurist Ray Kurzweil. "Such a disembodied consciousness," he says, "could live on in virtual reality or in an android robot." Kurzweil has helped to popularize another quasi-religious concept called the singularity. Now, in astrophysics, a singularity is the center of a black hole. In AI, it's a hypothetical technological tipping point that will occur when computers evolve beyond human control. Wrote the mathematician I.J. Good, an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines, and the intelligence of man would be left far behind. What happens then? According to AI theology, it could be Second Coming, or it could be Armageddon. Optimists say that machines will turn us into Nietzsche's Supermen. Pessimists say they'll treat us like laboratory rats. These ideas might sound like so much technobabble, but they are preached by a lot of wealthy and influential people. Kurzweil worked for Google, where he has the title AI Visionary. Another is Mark Andreessen, a Silicon Valley billionaire who wants to develop AI as fast and as unregulated as possible. He writes, "We believe artificial intelligence is our alchemy, our philosopher's stone. We are literally making sand think." What can a Unitarian Universalist make of all this? I'll suggest that we view it the same way that we regard other forms of fundamentalism. We tend to be skeptical of supernatural claims. Let us apply critical thinking to transhuman claims as well. For example, how will superintelligent machines reproduce themselves? For humans, it's very uncomplicated and usually pleasant. For superintelligent machines, they'll somehow have to mine their own raw materials as well as build their own factories and supply chains. To run the world, they will also need lots of power. Already, today's AI servers consume as much electricity as the nation of Sweden. As for humans, we can run on Twinkies. And if our machines start to scare us, we can do what Dave the astronaut did to HAL 9000. Pull the plugs. So, instead of fearing a second coming that's probably not coming, I would like to wrap up by talking about some more realistic and modest ways in which AI is connecting people with spirituality already, today. Mike has talked about spiritual coaching. Another is guided meditation. Several AI apps exist that will generate a personalized meditation after you type in a prompt. Something like, "Work has been stressful this week. Please take me to a beach on a tropical island." Other seekers are using AI to help study sacred texts. Several apps let you pose questions to a simulated Jesus or Moses. For other traditions, you can consult the app AI Buddha, Gita GPT, or AI Tarot. All of these uses have something in common. They treat AI as one more tool in our spiritual belts. Like any other tool, it helps us to do the work, but it doesn't do the work for us. No AI app will make me more enlightened or more compassionate. Genuine spiritual work still can only be carried out by human intelligence. Perhaps a greater spiritual gift of AI is this. It invites us to look anew at the timeless question of what it means to be human. Our challenge is to use it to expand our thinking rather than to think for us, to enhance our humanity rather than to take its place. Speaking of taking our place, I will give the last word to HAL 9000. May we be able to say, as he does to Dave, "I am putting myself to the fullest possible use," which is all I think that any conscious entity can ever hope to do. Now, I don't know if we rise as we're willing and able for closing hymns or not, but I invite you to join in singing this. The words will be on the screen. source of faith and learning that has sparked and stoked the mind with a passion for discerning how the world has been designed. Let the sense of wonder flowing from the wonders we survey keep our faith forever flowing and renew our deep word. Source of wisdom, we acknowledge that our science and our art and the breadth of human knowledge only partial truth and part. Far beyond our calculation lies a depth we cannot sound, where the purpose for creation and the pulse of life are found. Faithful minds to probe the heavens, praise for strength to breathe the air. Praise for all that beauty leathens, praise for silence, music, prayer. Praise for justice and compassion, and for strangers, neighbors, friends. Praise for hearts and lips to fashion, praise for love that never ends.
Thank you so much, Steve and Mike. It was marvelous and intriguing and frightening. As we extinguish the chalice, let's say together the words on the screen. Written by UU Minister Robert Ross. Let's begin. For all who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek a right path, may a way be found, and the courage to take it, step by step. Amen, and blessed be. Wrong button.
Best of human intelligence.
And so now, we can move to the room yonder for victuals and chat.
But not ChatGPT.